Go ahead, Mandy.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and start this meeting and go ahead and join us in the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you to all of you that are here tonight with us online and here in person. We appreciate you guys being here. We're going to go ahead and recite the mission and vision statement. The mission of the Nampa School District is to ensure high levels of achievement for every student. Vision statement. Every child is fully engaged in extraordinary learning experiences, preparing for successful transition to the next stages of life. Excellent. So our focus school spotlight is Centennial Elementary.
Yeah, trustees, as you're aware, we've been working with in our elementary schools to create a focus in our elementary schools, and it's a specific way to view the lens of our curriculum. And we have Principal Michelle Tripp and some friends of the Reeds are here to share some of the work that they've been doing on and what their coming year will look like.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad this is here because it seems like every time I talk to the board, I just move closer and closer and I get excited and probably a little nervous with some of it too. So I'm just working from the sway that I sent earlier. So hopefully you guys got that. I have a couple of people here that are wonderful that are here to support and just kind of.
Mr. Gers, would you mind checking on this TV as well? Thank
I'm working on it.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I can't tell what you're doing because I can't see.
Would you like me to wait for a second?
It's fine. I got it now. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Centennial Elementary is excited to move into full arts integration next year. Before I came, the staff had done this amazing job of piloting and trying out a whole bunch of things, going on school visits to other schools to kind of collect the best of everything that we saw in multiple different places, including some schools in Oregon and some schools down in California, which all came to a screeching halt when it came to COVID. We couldn't do school visits, but we gathered a whole bunch of information and teachers were piloting and trying things. And through that, we used that experience to kind of go to the second slide there, if you can. Perfect. We worked really hard this year to take all of the learning we've done for the last 2 years and define an arts integration model to prepare for full implementation next school year. And we are so excited. Okay, next slide. I wanted to start by just explaining why we're moving forward with arts integration. In considering, learning gaps and the other pieces that we've been working on at Centennial and that we are all subject to, we wanted to make sure that we were really grounded in the why and what we hope kids will get out of arts integration at Centennial Elementary, because the last thing we wanted it to be was just fun art projects hung up around the school. Like we wanted to be grounded in learning and engagement and joy for kids so that we would see an increase in our testing scores and an increase in our engagement with our school and our community, our parents and community partners. So here's our why. We believe that when students are creators and not just consumers, they achieve more, they engage more in their learning, and they find joy more that will last through their lifetimes as learners. And we feel like that's really closely aligned with what the district as a whole is trying to do. Go back one more. Oh, sorry, it's okay. And all of the kind of italicized words are what we have our outcomes that we plan on measuring. So that would be achievement. We expect to see increased achievement through this initiative. Engagement, we expect to see more community and we expect to see more student engagement, which is exciting. And then especially coming off of a COVID year, like we need people in our building, we need people, if possible, we need people in our building as much as possible participating. If that's virtual or in person, we need that badly. And then joy, meaning we should all be laughing more, smiling more, and having more humor. We all need that right now in our lives. So, okay, next one. So here's the how. How are we moving forward with arts integration? What was the process we used to define our vision? Okay, first off, we worked as a staff to define our values, create a standards-based rubric, and design a robust model of arts integration. And there's little teeny pictures that I couldn't figure out how to make bigger. So sorry. These are pictures of our teachers working in groups. Our building leadership team read this arts integration in diverse K-5 classrooms, which is the research base behind arts integration when we connect it with literacy, which is where we were trying to put a lot of our bang for our buck. Click to the next picture. This is some of the research posters that we brought all of our research together, and then we got feedback from our whole staff on what things resonated with them most. what standards and ideas they felt would most impact the kids in their classes. So the next slide. This is the cleanup crew. This is like just a group of teachers that came together to help like make this whole thing happen. I could have put about 40 pictures of teachers working together for this presentation, but I knew I had just a few minutes. So I put one really great picture of us going. And then here's some groups of teachers working and collaborating together around the ideas that we were coming up with together. So we can slide on. Thank you. Okay, so here's the how of part of what we're going to do. We definitely put together, we co-wrote as a building leadership team, we co-wrote a 35-page handbook that's going to be published and printed as a workbook, not unsimilar to like a hack model workbook that's been used before in the district for different initiatives. We've co-created this handbook that we're going to use for our training and our planning and our implementation. So we're excited about that. A couple highlights of that are that we found a definition of arts integration that we got really excited about. We took the Kennedy Center definition, which is a common definition for arts integration schools across the country, but we added one word that none of the other schools had. So reading the first sentence there, arts integration is an approach to teaching and learning. We added in the and learning part because almost all the other programs focus on the teaching and what the teachers do, and we really wanted to flip that and focus on what the kids are doing, not just what the teachers are doing. So that's kind of our definition. Flipping to the next one. Some of these get a little small, they're just samples. On our rubric that we created, we wanted to make sure we were standards first and standards based because we're not doing art just for fun, though it is fun. We're doing art for a purpose. And then it will also be fun. So I wanted to just show you guys that we've grounded everything we're doing in our content standards and in an art element so that we're really solidly based in standards-based practice. Flipping to the next one. This is so teeny, you can't read it now, but you can zoom in if you want, if you look at it more later. But that's basically our criteria, our research criteria. So now to the million-dollar question, what will it actually look like? And this is the part that gets really exciting. So flip to that next one. This is our overview of our model. We have a 4-part model of arts integration. So number 1 is arts integration. Number 2 is arts enhancement. Number 3 is our teaching artist program. And number 4 is our display. So flip to the next slide and we'll go into each of these a little more. We've created a 4-part model. Oh, sorry, next slide. That was a little redundant, I suppose. Part 1 is every student will complete an art project, which is visual, music, performing, or digital each trimester and present it to parents in our trimester showcases. So we're going to open our doors at first parent-teacher conference, at second targeted parent-teacher conference, and then at the end of the year in conjunction with some of our other fun activities. And we're going to have trimester showcases where every kid presents what they've been working on that trimester. We are so excited about that. I know this first year, it's going to be a little, trickier, a little more rough, but we're going to go for it. We're going all in, teachers are all in, and we're going to make this happen. It's going to be amazing. Part 2, teachers are going to continue to include daily arts enrichment activities in their classrooms to support mastery of content standards. This is what you see in every elementary classroom around the district, most likely, where people are doing math projects and they color or paint to get the concepts nailed down. We're going to continue doing that in our classrooms. So there's art infused in everything we do. Part 3 is our teaching artist program. This one's so fun, you guys. We're partnering with BSU and some community partners to bring in teaching artists several times throughout the year to complete awesome projects around our campus to beautify it. And eventually, year 2 or 3 of this program, that teaching artist program will take us out in the community more, and we'll be partnering with community organizations as well, instead of just bringing people in. But the first year, I think for stabilized growth of this program, we're focusing on bringing people in this first year to get people used to working with our teaching artists. So here's our first project, the mural. This first picture is our teaching artist, Mindy. She's at the front of the room. She's a local artist that paints a lot of stuff around. She's done a lot of murals around the community. These are the kids. She brought 30 kids in, and she took all of their ideas and they drew their ideas for murals, and together they co-created what the mural would look like. So I love that little girl. She's grinning so cute. This is the kids actually then painting the mural with the teaching artist supervising. So she actually took kids and painted with them. And if you want to see this whole project unfold, it's amazing, and it's on our Principal Trip YouTube channel. So feel free to check that out anytime you want. We've had lots and lots, hundreds of people watch that video. It's really great. And this is just for fun. I just had to slip this in. This is our therapy dog, Murphy. And he was actually painted into the mural. He's the one who spilled the paint cans in the mural that made the big rainbow. So the kids definitely wanted Murphy in there. They also wanted ninjas, robots, spaceships, and dragons. And somehow our teaching artists brought all that together into one cohesive picture. So pretty impressive. So part 4, last but not least, is the display of art around campus in creative and varied ways. So if you've been in Centennial, it was built in 75 and it looks like it. It's a great school. We love it, but it definitely looks, as you walk in, it feels and looks brick everywhere, and it's beautiful and quirky and very old. So we are refreshing that this summer, and when people walk in the door, we don't want any questions about what kind of school we are. We want it to look like an arts integrated school. There should be music, there should be displays, there should be beautiful artistic things all around. So we're going to be displaying art around in a variety of ways. You have a picture here of what our shelves used to look like around our library, and we've cleared all of that off at this point, and they're going to be remodeled into display cases on the top. So all around the library will just be displayed 3D student art. You can see our old display cases that weren't very cleverly used, and we're putting shelves in those and making those look more relevant and new, and a whole bunch of other things. So we're going to be displaying art around campus in beautiful ways. So when you walk in, you have no question, what kind of school is this? Arts and Crafts, right? And then we hope eventually that will attract the kind of people that enjoy art and that want to engage in art with us at our school. So that's the hope. Okay, so flipping to the next part, here's some other work we're doing that's part of this whole project. For one, we've updated our new social media account. So we're calling it Centennial Elementary School. It used to be called Centennial Patriots, and I kept getting tagged on Centennial High School stuff because they're the Patriots also. So we kept getting tagged on all these sports things, and because that's the Centennial Patriots is Centennial High and Meridian, or West Ada. Oops, West Ada. So we changed. We're going to change our social media to Centennial Elementary. So we're working on getting that transferred over. We're increasing communication to highlight our arts integration focus in a variety of ways, including our Principal Trip YouTube channel, which you can see a little picture of there on the side. We've got a whole bunch of videos we've been posting weekly, and there are a lot of videos that actually have the words arts integration in it, like what an arts integrated school looks like, what our arts integration model is. Our mural, you can see our Centennial mural one has 201 views when I took this screenshot. So it's kind of fun, like people are watching them and hopefully engaging in them. And then as we come back and implement this program, we'll have a lot more student created art videos. For those who are into graphic arts or performing arts, those will all be posted on our Principal Trip YouTube channel as well. So that's another part of what we're doing. And then the last part I wanted to share with you guys is that we're doing a lot of remodeling at the school to make it look more arts integrated, like I kind of spoke about. The second bullet point there says renaming all of our spaces to emphasize artistic creation campus-wide. So for example, we no longer have a computer lab. We now have a digital creation lab. So, and then that digital creation lab, we have 3D printers, a Sphero robotics lab that we got through a grant from Apple this year. We have Oculus 2 devices and a 365 camera, so kids can make their own YouTube 365 videos and then watch them in real time. And design projects on student iPads. So it won't be learning just to type. That's important, but it'll also be a whole lot more than just sitting in front of a computer. It'll be creating. And then we are also working on, let's see, third bullet point, working with our school community to change to a new arts-inspired logo. So we want to have something that's a little less Centennial Patriot football, or Patriots in New England Patriot football, and a little more arts integrated. So we're working on doing that with our school community. We've surveyed parents already and got some ideas. We're going to create some new logos, and then we're going to kick that out to our community and work on getting that, sort of rebranded, I guess, for lack of a better word. And we want to emphasize the stars part of it because we are stars. It still plays with our patriotic heritage, but it also helps us move forward into our arts integration while maintaining our patriotic focus. And so I feel like it's the perfect combination. So we'll emphasize that Centennial Stars portion of our logo and motto or mascot. And then last but not least, we're working with community partners to get a whole lot more grant funding for future projects, including hopefully a teaching artist in residence in a couple of years, where someone comes in and actually organizes and works on that project. So in essence, that's what we're doing at Centennial, and we are very excited about it. We're excited about what it's going to do for kids. We're excited about what it brings to our community, because we do have an Idaho Arts Charter School, but we want to be the arts school in Nampa. Like, that's our goal, no no, no slight to Idaho Arts, that's definitely a need, but we just want to be another choice for that. That's a little bit different model, and that includes all of our kids in our community that may not be able to go to a charter school or get in. We want that to be us, and we're excited about it. So, do you guys have any questions?
I do, Madam Chair.
Yay.
First of all, this speaks to my heart so much. So thank you. I'm really excited to see this in our community. So my question, I guess, would be a couple of questions.
Yes.
One is, how is this different from Idaho Arts? I'm with you. I'm not knocking it. I'm just curious what the difference is.
Yeah.
And then my second question, well, let's start with that. And I have a couple. They're not hard questions, I promise.
Yeah, we have a couple things. Idaho Arts kids, and I again, I'm not an expert on Idaho Arts charter.
Right.
I just walked through it, like I visited.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed, what we're trying to do at our school is have a super inclusive environment where like every kid, even those who wouldn't necessarily sign up for an arts school on purpose, come and find a way to creatively express themselves. So because honestly, you can't be successful in this world without being a creator. You have to be a creator.
Yeah.
So we want to help kids find their creative passion in whatever form that is. So we're going to get a whole different demographic of kid than those who might say, yes, I want to do the music program at Idaho Arts. We're instead going to get all the kids who may not have a traditional art path, but definitely want to still explore the arts. So I'd say that's our biggest focus, is our inclusivity of all kids, all interests, all types of art.
Fantastic. Okay, second question would be, how is this being publicized? How are people in our district being made aware of this? Because for someone like me, my kids would just go to my regular school, but I might have kids who are interested in something like this. So how, as a parent, would I learn about this?
I think that's a great question, and that's a big part of our year one plan. As we've been figuring out what we're going to be, we haven't publicized as much yet because we didn't know what we were going to look like yet, but we've emerged from our cocoon and we are maybe a mostly formed butterfly. We'll be revising our wings still, of course, but we're emerging. And so we're going to start doing a lot more social media presence. That's part of the new social media branding, so we don't get confused with Centennial Patriots. We're going to be sending a lot more stuff out via Peach Jar and other ways like that, where parents and kids can know what we're doing. We're going to put a lot more things out on our YouTube and publish that more. I'm reaching out to some of the news outlets that normally go and do, like, some of our radio shows that come and do broadcasts at schools, and we're going to invite them to be a part of our showcases. Whether they'll come or not, I don't know, but we're going to do that. And when we have our first showcase, we're luckily very, very closely located to 12th Avenue, so we can put it on our reader board. And we can say showcase, community showcase, come in. We're going to get the word out through our connections with BSU and the local artists that we're using, who we're co-branding that. So when we bring an artist in, they also tag us and they get that out to their people. And then eventually that will build energy. So
awesome. Okay.
And I'm working with Kathleen Tuck also.
Get her on,
because you got to be smart and work right. Know what they're doing, right?
Yeah. Third question is, what does your teacher turnover look like this year? And our new teachers, is this excited? I mean, I can love and appreciate that you have these teachers that have been working on it, but what does your teacher turnover look like? And are you hiring others who are coming in ready to jump?
Great question. And that is something that we were measuring really closely to see, like, okay, how bought in are people? So we've been really careful to say, this is where we're going, give feedback on it. Okay, this is where we are, this is where we're going, and making sure people know what they're getting into if they stay at Centennial. Yeah. I'm pleased to say that right now we have 0 turnover. So I anticipate that there may be one potential turnover, possibly, but at the moment, the only person who's left is a leave of absence because she's pregnant. She's taking a year, so good for her. But as far as that goes, we've had no one that's left and everyone that's staying, and a really high level of buy-in. Yeah. I would even say we probably have pretty close to 100% buy-in. Now, we haven't started doing it yet, right? So when you start doing it, it can become a little more, I guess, intimidating. Yes. So we are planning for that. And that's part of why we have a robust handbook that we've written and that we've co-written as a building leadership team. And we've designed our entire first semester of PD will be centered around our arts integration model and using this to help kids drill down to the skills they really need to have through artistic, creation. So.
Well, I'm excited for you guys. Congratulations. It's a lot of hard work, and it's going to be a really great asset to our community.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will be. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, we're planning for joy. We've been planning for joy all year, but we're planning for joy this year also.
I think
we'll find it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I have just one. I just wanted to compliment, especially the focus on joy. I think that's incredibly important. Engagement, achievement, but joy.
Yes.
That's in our world, not just at this time, but that's really important. So how will you measure that movement on that joy scale?
That's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's difficult.
Yes, so part of what we're going to do as a building leadership team is look at what our measures will be as we come back. We're going to be really responsive in designing those measures. The obvious measures are always, the Cognia surveys that show student engagement, where they ask students about their engagement level. That will give us an idea about joy. Joy is a little intangible in that it's something you feel when you walk in a room, but you can see it by the number of kids that are proud of what they're presenting. So we could look at percentages of kids that have completed projects. We could look at numbers of parents who come through the door, whether virtually or in person. We could look, those are all kinds of things we could examine for joy, but I would say our measures are definitely a work in progress.
Sure.
It's something that we'll look at as a building leadership
I
team.
like it. Look forward to hearing more.
Great question.
Yeah, I can't wait to visit.
It's gonna be so fun. Please do come. Yeah, first showcase will be parent-teacher conference nights, the first 3 parent-teacher conference nights in October. And I call them parent showcases, but it will really be community showcases with our artists that have done projects with us and the kids being the stars of the show, because we are stars. That's our theme this year too. We are stars.
Awesome.
That's great.
So exciting. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share with us. And yeah, I think we're all excited to come make a visit.
It's
So
gonna be great.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Thanks for sitting through my loud fast talk.
Next up, we have our Nampa Education Association comments.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for continuing to give time to the association president to come speak to you. My remarks tonight are really just in a way of introduction. I assume you might have heard my name before in the context of negotiations, but maybe strewn about with some colorful epithets and euphemisms. My name is Brian Coffey. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and his. Let me explain why I say that. We have members of the transgender community in our schools, in our classrooms, and together with members of the LGBTQ communities, they still face harassment and ridicule and discrimination that needs to end. I am married. I have 3 teenagers at home. They all go to school in various iterations in the city of Boise, where we live. My wife is an elementary school teacher for the Boise School District. My career as an educator began right here in Nampa. I was hired by Dr. Cindy Cook at Gateways in February 2016. So I'm forever indebted to her and thankful for her for taking a chance on me. After that, I went to Nampa High School, where I still am, and was hired by Michelle Tripp, whom you just heard. And I was so thankful, and I am thankful and lucky to have had her as administrator for 1 year. And you all see why, of course, after her presentation tonight. She introduced me to a concept, I think for the first time, which has become kind of a catchphrase for many of us, which is presuming positive intentions of others. I would say that this idea comes naturally to me when it comes to children, students, and people I might meet casually in the community. And I made this kind of statement in negotiations last week. In a professional setting, however, it really goes against every ounce of training, experience, and practice really that I had in my former careers and lives. I hope you don't hold it against me though. I am committed to this idea, and I have seen the fruits of it even as recently in our most recent negotiation session. So I hope you will do the same for me. I earned my full teacher credential with an endorsement in secondary ELA through the ABCTE program. So yes, I am one of those. I am actually in the middle of getting my special education certification through ABCTE as well. For my own education, I went to undergrad and law school at the University of San Diego, which of course means, yes, I moved to Idaho from California. Yet another thing that I hope you don't hold against me. I'm not from there, however, I just went there to go to school. I graduated from high school in Dallas, Texas. I did most of my other schooling in and around Arlington, Virginia. If you ask me where I'm from, that would be an even longer story that I don't want to tell you, but on the first day of class, I often start with a trivia question, which is, I was born in the United States, but not in a state. So there's some clue if you think of it, let me know. Let's see, prior to becoming the president of the Teachers Union, I was the lead negotiator both last year, this past year, and the year before that. I was on the team before that, not the lead. But my first negotiation experience was actually in the summer of 2018. I was teaching summer school over at Skyview, And so I live in Boise, so I was already here. And so I would come over, I sat like right over there, I think, and I watched Dr. Russell lock horns with Jamie Hazing, the then lead negotiator, because that was before the IBB was reinstituted. And that was fascinating, to kind of watch all of that. Then, of course, people said, like, who are you? And they talked to me, and then they asked me to do stuff. So here I am. I'm happy also to have Ms. Hazing as a mentor. She's a past president as well. Prior to negotiations, I was on the stipend committee and then the calendar committee, experiences that I'm thankful for and very helpful, although I don't wish to repeat them anytime soon. Let's see, I also have a position with the IEA, so the State Education Association. I am on the board of directors representing Region 8, which includes Caldwell, Valley View, CUNA, Melba, Bruno, Grandview, if they have members, Mountain Home, and of course, Nampa. I consider myself extremely lucky to work for the Nampa School District. I really love my job, and that is not something that I can say about probably any of my previous jobs in my various careers in my past lives. The biggest reason, of course, is the students. I have students from all walks of life. I have students that are from generations of Idahoans, students from families of refugees, people have recently immigrated from all over the world. I also have students that are descended from the Shoshone, Bannock, and Northern Paiute tribes, of course, on whose land that we currently sit and occupy. One of the things I learned from Dr. Cook at Gateways is that one of the primary goals of education is to empower students. That's something that I try to hold on to, and I interpret that literally meaning to help them get power. Knowledge is, of course, a form of power, and one that we deal with directly in the school system. I wanted to submit to you that the primary role or goal, of the NEA is to empower students. The way that we do that is to seek to empower educators. Primarily, we focus on the form of power, though, of dignity. Dignity in the workplace is a form of power. So when we drive a hard bargain, it's not because we are greedy, money-grubbing people. It's because being well paid for your efforts is a form of having dignity in your profession. When we clamor for protections for our prep time and our workday, it's not because we're lazy clock watchers. It's because having a voice in your working conditions is a form and a driver of dignity in your profession. So here before you as the leader of a local labor union. Labor unions were created and still exist for the very purpose of increasing the power and the dignity of people in their workplace. I look forward to working with you over the next year at least, perhaps beyond, to empower all of the students and the community of Nampa. I'm happy to report to you that the NEA membership has ratified the proposed master contract for the 21-22 school year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Question. Welcome. I would welcome throughout the year the perspective of our local association on legislative topics as we seek to advocate for our schools and our needs. It'd be nice to have those stories that our teachers in Nampa have concerns with this. Or does that make sense what I'm saying?
For sure.
And I know we were so busy this past year, just keeping school open, keeping kids and staff safe. But it'd be nice to have that kind of feedback from the association, at least for me.
Real life stories help
Yeah.
instead of, like that.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
I'd love to know what the letters, the acronym that you mentioned, where you got your teaching certificate, because I'm not familiar with that.
American Board of something teaching experience. I wish I could. Very good. So it's one of the, I think it's one of two alternate routes to certification in the state of Idaho.
Thank you.
For America being the other.
Yeah. And stick in my brain unless I figure out what, what
Yes.
I'd just like to say welcome as well. We're excited to have you and work with you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Up next, trustee comments. I'm going to start over here on my right.
Okay. Trustee Westfall. Yeah, I did have the opportunity. I saw that we were advertising for the community to take a look at the art curriculum and had a chance to talk with Michelle about what's happening and stuff like that. So it was really, I think we'll have a presentation on that next month, maybe. It was really interesting to see where the district was headed and some great tools coming their way.
Yep, no comments, thanks.
And then for me today, we did have one public comment. Amy Henry, was there anyone else that wished to comment that didn't fill out the paperwork? And so Amy, I just want to double check, were these two separate? So together?
Yeah, just lump sum. Yep, quick comment.
Okay.
Didn't even write anything up, it just had a quick.
And then, so it is on budget and curriculum, right, committee? So we're gonna go ahead and put that with our new business with the budget, and you'll speak to that right beforehand. Unless you have something you need to be at that you'd like to address this right now, I'm happy to accommodate that, but otherwise we'll put it right there.
Spend the evening with you, so that's fine.
Excellent, perfect.
Which I don't, there's two budget items.
Oh, that's right. And is it the amended budget, like for the year we ended, or the budget for the current year that we're gonna be going into?
It won't, it doesn't matter. Either way, probably more towards.
The one we're going into?
It's not a specific budget item question, it's just a general.
Okay.
So wherever you
Okay,
would like to place me, it doesn't matter.
let's do it with the 2021-22 budget. So it'll be the second budget item you see in the new business. Excellent. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so next is our consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Been moved by trustee Westfall and seconded by both trustees and trustee Keller. Any discussion? Excellent. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? They may. That's approved. So then we move to, our new business.
New business, yeah. So trustees, we got several action items on the agenda tonight. The first one is our capital outlay fund. If you recall, we had two buildings that we were able to sell as a district, Parkview and the Block building. Parkview paid off the majority of the new warehouse that we have. There was a small amount left over, plus the Block some money that we were able to gain. We had a proposal to create a new fund account that would allow the district to use those funds for capital improvement projects. Mr. Dewey is here to explain more or answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Dewey? And I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the transfer of $462,433 from the general fund to a new capital projects fund to be specifically used for future capital projects of the district.
And I just want to make sure on the amount because I heard something different.
Oh, did I say it wrong?
$462,443. I may have heard it wrong, but I just
I'm
want
sure I said it wrong.
make sure that we have it documented. Do you have a second?
Second.
So it was moved by trustee Keller and seconded by trustee Kip. Any discussion to your motion? Questions or comment?
Madam Chair, I don't object to establishing this account. When we were talking about this in the work session, I'd like to see what some of the projects are. I'm uncomfortable when we start having large savings without a purpose, because you see the news stories of school districts are sitting on buckets of funds, and just so we're really transparent. And I believe in the discussion earlier, it said this was within the purview of the facilities committee, which isn't a committee of the board, but we do see their recommendations. But I'd like to get a report on what would fall here. Would it be like parking lots? You know, we heard not student occupied buildings, but that we're just really clear how these funds are intended to be used in the future.
So what, like a list of these are possible.
Trustee Westphal, we're happy to do that and work through our facilities committee to kind of have general ideas. So that the public's aware of this money.
How will we grow this fund?
I can explain both questions, actually. So the first part, my opinion is, this money that was coming, it was from capital, and we needed to get it out of the general fund, so we didn't actually have it, because it was kind of a restricted fund in that. It's best to put it in a separate type of fund anyway, and make sure that it's earmarked for the right purpose. So that's why we wanted to put it in a special purpose fund, and then at that point in time, we can get some ideas of what that's for. The hope isn't that we can go and spend it in one day. I mean, there are so many projects that obviously we're going to do. Hope is to maybe build this with future revenues, if we have any additional revenues at the end of the year, to potentially put some more money into this if we needed to build and do bigger projects or whatnot, but we don't know yet, right? We do have the supplemental levy right now that kind of supplements, that really helps us with a lot of those capital projects, but in the past, we never had any of that. So we really want to make sure we're kind of setting the stage for future transfers, if we can, to be able to do big projects that are not student occupied buildings that are, we have to do with the lottery funds.
Can you give us an example of what's something like that would be?
So anything like a track. So one of the projects we just did, as we put some cement in the middle of the track at Columbia. Well, when they walked the track, there was a couple very large cracks. Well, we don't know how much that's going to cost to actually get those large cracks repaired. So this is to potentially help with those type projects. We don't get any help like to clean our parking lots or any of that stuff, but that's kind of more operational. This is more of fix this, fix that. I mean, and so fix this, we don't know, right? And those are the type of things that we need these type of funds for in order to be able to be ready in the future. So we don't have to ask the patrons all the time for supplemental levies to do our construction projects.
Yeah, we can explain that we are saving a little bit where we can to make these repairs, which you don't fund.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I think it's a little bit more transparent as well, because we can actually ask you guys at the end of each year, hey, we have a little bit here, can we put this over to that? It's the same thing with West State and Boise do on a routine basis to try to build for future projects over there as well. I'm just kind of trying to do the same thing here.
Yeah, it'd be nice, kind of like at a home, you have this, amount that you need to reinvest every year in the maintenance of your own home.
Yes.
That if we had that target, we were clear on the target, we had a list of projects that we were going to do with it, just be very transparent.
Yeah, and we can get that in this facilities. We have so much money, different pots right now. This is just one that was hoping to kind of stick there. And when other monies were dry, then we could dip into this a little bit as well.
Thank you. Any other questions on this?
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Passes.
Next item is the appointment of legal representation. During the work session, we had both folks from Anderson Julian Hall, Brett was here, and Maren from Hilton Hamilton. Yes, our current.
Yeah. Questions, comments, motion, any of those things?
I'm just going to say I'm going to exclude myself from this conversation because Mark Hilty's a personal friend of mine. So I think it'd be better if I just allow. So I'm just going to step aside and let you talk about it.
I move we accept the Anderson Julian Hall response. Okay. You have a second?
I'll second I would love to have some discussion on it. I would love to hear. I don't have enough experience, so I would love to hear your reasonings and.
We have attorneys listed. These are actually both approved legal counsel. So I was just looking at the experience in education law was the main decider for me. So I know there was a concern about how the costs were structured, but that they were willing to negotiate with the administration about maybe setting up a retainer that would work for them. So I thought in terms of a trustee, and then as a trustee, when we look for information on legal issues, the folks who have, done that might be best suited to advise us.
I know one of my questions was the concern of, when you have a legal retain or a monthly retainer fee, then, I mean, we have it's easier to budget, right? Like this is what we're gonna pay. And so that was a little concerning, and I, like Trustee Westfall, heard that would be something they would be willing to look at and see as well. So that concerned me a little bit. Also, the distance of, Anderson, Julian, and Hall was concerning, but I did ask the question of, like timely feedback, because in my experience with our current attorneys, I haven't had a problem with feedback. So I reached out and asked, like, how do we feel? And it was similar to the 24-hour response, but it wasn't guaranteed, which I think you guys saw in their service proposal from our current attorneys, that there was not a guaranteed timeline on the response of things. I don't have an answer, but I worry who will be working with Anderson, Julian, and Hall, like who will actually be working with us. Will it be a paralegal? Who will these people be? And then still paying more per hour for those paralegals than the rate that our current attorneys. I don't know.
Right.
It's a tough decision. I mean,
Right, because one's kind of in the dark, yeah.
yeah. And I agree, though, there is experience here, and so that weighs as well. If you don't have any other question, I was going to ask.
I would love to hear you.
Question.
I'm here for the discussion most of all. I'd love to hear.
Perfect. I just wanted to remember, was this a partial year contract? Because we're getting it set to move into January. I wanted to make sure I understood that correctly.
Yeah, we do 6 months, so it'd be July to December with a renewal in January.
Madam Chair, if I may ask, is this something that we renew yearly, or how long of a contract do we sign? If this is renewed in January, is this a several-year contract? Is this a one-year contract? Do we renew this every year?
It's typically a 1 year.
Thank you.
Contract, yeah.
I actually liked how we did it, that we approved all the legal counsel that the district uses. And so, I don't know if we're narrowing this, then would Anderson, Julian, Hall, who have expertise in special ed, then also replace the special ed to bring it in and maybe save costs that way? So it was like, so why are we doing this process now when we had already approved the firms?
So I want to make sure I heard what you are saying. So because sometimes we would get legal representation from Anderson, Julian, and Hall specifically on special ed cases. And
Yeah, we have not, we usually go with a different firm for a special ed.
okay,
Jill Holinka is our special ed lawyer. Anderson Julian Hall does have some special ed cases because they do work with a variety of school districts and who are maybe smaller and don't have that, but we have not specifically worked with them on special ed. So that would be something we'd have to discuss if they have. What we've typically done with Anderson Julian Hall is work on court cases because our insurance has used them. We have used them in situations for Title IX, for example, because they worked with a variety of other school districts. How have other school districts dealt with the Title IX case might be something we have as well. But we've also used our local lawyers for that as well.
so I think what I hear you saying is that a possibility that if we went with Anderson, Julian, and Hall, that possibly because they have the resources for special ed cases, that it might be that we're not going to another attorney for those. I mean, I know, Greg, you can't foresee the future, but would that be a possible?
I think we'd have to have further discussions on what Anderson Julian Hall can specialize with special ed law. Because special law there are so many laws tied to special ed law. Sometimes it is helpful to have someone who solely just uses that for law practice, but happy to explore that with their firm. I know they have a variety of different lawyers. If the board so chooses, happy to open those conversations with them.
And I was wondering if we could explore this with ISBA, because I wonder if it's something that's just outdated. Because the law says we appoint a legal counsel. And so last January, I think we put all of them on the agenda. So if we don't appoint someone, does that prohibit the administration from going to someone we haven't appointed?
It's a good question.
You know,
So are you asking, are we tying ourselves into one when we may not necessarily have to?
well, when we don't now, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if this is an outdated model. In the meantime, the motion,
Sorry, I'm gonna write that down because I do want to make sure.
So Allison, and if I may ask just to your motion, do you feel like the experience then outweighs the benefits of having someone more local? And have we had opportunity, have we, for lack of a better word, been disappointed or feel like we have been able to have our needs met because of lack of experience?
right, so we're in an awkward position because we don't work with the legal counsel day to day. The administration does.
Right.
They didn't include a recommendation in here, but they brought forward it to us.
Yeah.
So if I had a legal counsel for us on a trustee issue, I think I would go to someone who's done that before.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
Greg, I know that we didn't ask necessarily for a recommendation, but I'm assuming
Yeah.
from the lack of a recommendation that it is, there's not one, but I'm not gonna presume to know that.
Sure,
That's what it
so
means.
I presume that you may want to know the administration's perspective on this, and you can see I have my pros and cons list of each.
Excellent.
And it is a very difficult situation. Our local lawyers are obviously local and being part of NAPA. I think that's an important thing to have local. They are cost efficient. They have, personally speaking, primarily been very responsive to me. There are parts in our team though, where we have had to wait. And there are situations as a school district where that is difficult at sometimes, where we have fires, lack of better word, that need to be put out immediately. We need responses and we've had to be very patient on some of those. So on the other part, just as Trustee Westfall had mentioned, Anderson-Julian Hall does specialize and work with many school districts. And so the example I just used on the Title IX, it's helpful for us sometimes to be able to call and say, well, what about other school districts around the state? How do they interpret this? What does it look like if in school districts in A and B and C of all different sizes and how they deal with things? They have been extremely responsive and they have helped us in numerous litigation things in the past. So we do have a good working relationship. I think the administration's happy to work with both. I don't know if I have it's a tough decision, obviously. If I had to go with one, probably be response times, and I think that would probably be the most beneficial for me. Is Anderson-Julian Hall's response time has been very fast for us, so I don't know if that helps.
Dr. Russell, how much do we spend on legal fees? Because Boise has an in-house counsel. They just went and hired someone as an employee.
So I know our retainer with Hamilton, Michael, and Hilty is around $2,200 a month. Is that correct? I believe. And we don't go over that very often. There's only a few occasional months when that has happened. Oftentimes, I think we've been under that. There are occasions when we have to, for example, like I just mentioned, where we do have to go to Anderson-Julian Hall and we'll reach out to them and they charge, as they mentioned, by the hour. And so oftentimes that's a 15 to 20 minute conversation, sometimes less. And so it's a quarter of $190. So it's 80. And so it'll be maybe $300 in a month or $250 depending on the month. It's really hard to put a quantitative number on it because it depends on the situation. Obviously, if we have litigation against us, that is usually covered by insurance, so there is no cost to that. We have to spend a lot of time to speak with the lawyers on that.
Any other questions, discussion? Sorry, I feel like I'm
No,
leaving you out,
you're not. It's fine.
but we are. Everybody ready for a vote? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Passes. Next, we have our approval of the 2020-2021 amended budget.
Mr. Dewey is here once again to ask any or answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions, comments, or a motion?
Move to approve the 2021 budget as amended. Oh, can I scratch that and follow the motion that's suggested here? Sorry. I move to approve the proposed budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year as amended and presented in the presentation and as published.
Second. Excellent. So it was moved by trustee Kip, seconded by trustee Westfall. I'd like to speak to your motion.
I feel like we have been brought along with this and with the additional monies that we've received, particularly from the federal government, and we've been brought along. And the amendment process isn't necessary following state law, I think is what I've been educated about. For those reasons, I'm in support.
Any other questions, comments, discussion?
Mr. Dewey, this hasn't changed since we've seen it, correct?
Correct.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Passes. So next is the approval of the 2021-2022 budget. And so Ms. Amy Henry, you're up, please.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me okay? All right. My name is Amy Henry. I want to thank you guys for the last couple of months. I know it's been hairy. I'll use the word hairy. And I know you put in a lot of work and a lot of stress. So first of all, I want to thank you for that. It's been emotional for all of us, and I won't even go into it because it makes me emotional. But I do want to thank all of you very much, and you too, and you too, Tammy. Anyway, I do want y'all to know that I did get my teaching degree from NMU. I have a master's in education. I taught primarily in Boise, but I did teach 1 year at Greenhurst Elementary, a long time ago. Seems like ages. I was a member of the NEA, just 1 year. The MEA used to be the Meridian Education Association, the BEA for a long time, the IEA, and I do have a lifetime membership in the NEA. So I do know the union well, sometimes too well. I do just have a couple questions, and I want to thank, is it Mr. Dewey? Yes. Okay. You've been really great about the budget and being really transparent. So I want to thank you for that. It's helped us a lot. But I do have a couple of questions, and so that's why I'm here. I just wanted to ask about the ESSER 1 funds, I think. And for this following school year, we wondered if they were going to have staff daycare funded again for the following year. So that was my one question. And then I know when I taught in Boise, we had parents and sometimes students on both curriculum committees and budget committees when it was okay to do so. And I hope that makes sense. Sometimes I know it's not okay. You need to have closed doors for some of that budget stuff. But when we could have parent input on budget items, we did. And we always had a parent on our curriculum committees when we were looking at curriculum textbooks. And so I'm just coming to you asking if that's not something we can look at in the future. And we have worked with some really great students that I think are sometimes more mature than we are as adults and are more level-headed. And so I'm just wondering if we can't look at that as having some students and parents on some of those committees in the future. And I really loved when Trustee Mandy talked about your new negotiations committees that you have and looking at those in a different way. And I'm wondering if we couldn't all get our heads together and find maybe a new way of looking at some of those curriculum adoptions and maybe budget adoptions in the future and involving some of the rest of us. I think it might be better for all of us as a community. So that's all. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but I just kind of wanted to bring that to you guys and see if that might be an option in the future. We could work together more. I think as a community, we would be better off and maybe kinder to one another, you know. Anyway, I don't know, Peter, if that's an option. Is it here, Mr. Dewey? Yeah, I don't know if that's an option in any budget issues at all. But anyway. Any questions?
Thank you.
Does that make any sense?
Any questions?
So I'm just clarifying, I just was writing down, so you had a question about staff daycare and SRF 1, and then a recommendation for budget and curriculum committees involving both parents and students.
Right,
Did I get it?
yes.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Just wanted to make sure I got it.
Yes.
Steve Westfall, did you?
Oh, normally in public comments, we don't engage, but I just have to, we do, Idaho law requires that we do have parents on our curriculum committees, so we approve those committees when they come through. And that's
Right.
one of the things we look through. It has to be at least 25%.
Yeah, usually 25% of the committee needs to be parent involvement, and there's often rubrics that we'll have where parents can give that input, and we've often had showings of the curriculum as well.
Right,
Where we'll put it, usually it's here in the boardroom,
right.
but we'll send it out, so.
Like the art showing was wonderful. Yeah, but I'm talking like long before that. I don't know if we're just missing that, but all the parents I've talked to haven't,
Yeah.
we haven't seen that. So we just thought if we could bring that forward and just ask.
Yeah, so Amy, typically the process, what we've done in the past is we'll have a committee that forms with parents, administrators, teachers, and principals.
Okay,
And then what we do is kind of do a call out to say anybody out there or publisher want to show us what you would have for science curriculum.
Right.
And we would get one from Houghton Mifflin or Saxton or some of these other big companies. And then the committee would have, usually they develop a rubric together and they look at the curriculum and they go through, does this curriculum meet this, and this? And then they fill it out. And then typically what they'll do is they'll narrow it down. They give updates to the board. And we often have public kind of showings or input that way if any of that is. And then there's a final decision that's made and presented to the board, and the board makes the final decision. So we try to have input on the committee, try to have input on, once we narrow it down to a couple of choices. And then of course, there's the input, just what you're doing right now on public comment.
right, okay. So we're missing that somehow. So is there a way to talk about getting students involved in that too and how to get that communicated better to the public maybe? I don't know. Anyway,
Sure.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
So yeah, I've written notes. I think we've all written notes, and we appreciate your comment
Thank you.
and your help on that. And yes, we don't typically, we just let you comment. I'm
I
somebody
know.
who, I feel like when somebody has questions, like you want to know the answers, and waiting sometimes for those is hard. So that's why I allow it, but that's my choice as the chair, not
Yes.
anyone else's. So
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
thank you. We appreciate it.
it. Okay.
Excellent. Any questions on the 2021-2022 budget for Mr. Dewey or Dr. Russell?
All right, slow.
Yeah.
Welcome to our world of our air conditioning in this
Yeah.
building. So sometimes it freezes up, and this is possibly what's happening.
Dr. Russell, Mr. Dewey, since the question was asked in the development of this budget that's before us, how are stakeholder views reflected in it?
So it would be great. I will be honest with you that if we could get some public support and information. There is, my understanding, there is a portion of that we're supposed to be getting some for the ESSER 3 funds. We're supposed to be getting some public input for those funds and to be able to show the community what we're doing and getting that. As far as the other funds.
Just want to clarify on the ESSER 3, that is one of the requirements that we heard at the legislative roadshow, which the State Department of Education puts on for educators, is that there is a requirement of parental input on ESSER 3 expenditures. We have not gotten guidance on what that actually looks like. Does that look like a meeting? Does that look like us sharing that? So we have not got clarity. We reached out to the State Department. State Department said they would be getting us clarity. In fact, there was a webinar this morning where I asked a question that didn't get it answered. So we're still looking at that. We expect to definitely have some parental input to share how the ESSER funds will be used and get their thoughts on that.
A question, because, and this has just been a crazy year, federal money's coming in, but one of the goals in our strategic plan, our continuous improvement plan, was to move to a budget adoption process that Randy, the group had a more inclusive process. Where are we on that?
So the last few years, with the fun of what started the year last year, where we didn't even have access to our system for a few months,
Yeah.
for a couple of years, and then the end of the year, which was COVID, and then all of this year, which was COVID, that has definitely been put a little bit on hold. The goal is to get the budget started a little sooner than what we typically do. I will say this, for the federal funds and these new federal funds, we did get quite a bit of input. We had some union members on there. We had a lot of, I think we had some, I don't remember exactly who was on the committee with that, but we had a group of probably 15 of us or so that were on those calls to kind of get some ideas and that. And we put that also in front of the principals in meetings as well. And then we also asked different stakeholders as well within the district. I don't know how much we've asked, outside of the district, but we were trying to get as much voice as we can for brainstorming ideas to get those ideas in there. And then Gray had the fun task of then moving from $65 million of requests down to the 35 that we currently have. And then also some of those requests weren't inside the parameters of the COVID guidelines that we needed to do as well. So some of those had to get stricken as well.
And a lot of the money that we see doesn't have a lot of discretion to it. So in terms of a conversation with stakeholders, it's, we negotiate for a big chunk of our money to pay our staff. Where we have rich conversations is when we go out to the community and ask for a levy. And we've talked about how do we engage our community about the needs and what we should ask for. And that's an opportunity that would be coming up.
Yes, that is accurate. School finance is complicated, and much of it is already earmarked. Much of it is actually already expended by the time we get our actual official budget. We're already midway through the school year, which makes it kind of hard. So, but levy is truly when we're going out asking for those supplemental things. When happy for us to continue to explore how we can engage the community more, have more parental input on what the levy looks like and what that means. Quite honestly, we need folks to be talking to their neighbors, to talk to their coworkers, talk to those that they go to church with. They need to be our biggest advocates. So we're happy to explore that more.
So, with our budget hearing, in my experience, people don't come to speak at the budget hearing, so I don't really know what happens. But if we had feedback during the budget hearing, and because of that, the board wanted to make changes or relook at things, can you tell us what that process might look like? And so maybe we need to do a better job of advertising the budget hearing. Do we need to to me, in my mind, we need to do more before that, right? Than leading into the budget hearing. But I guess as we're talking about this one, a little clarification on that piece.
So the reason there's 2 weeks in between, it's no more than 2 weeks, actually. Some boards will actually do the hearing, and then right after we'll actually adopt right away as well. So you're correct. If there are a lot of changes, then theoretically you should go back out and republish and that kind of stuff. We've never done that. The time to actually get more involvement into it isn't necessarily this late in the game. It really is to start going in October, November, December. Those are the times that we really want to start getting, and that's the process we are working towards. It's just it's been difficult the last few years to get that going, and the goal is to get those conversations going. We've already talked that we're going to get together with some union representatives to work on salary structures for next year as well, federally. So that is a huge chunk of our budget, and but it's really philosophy of how we do things. One of the things our district is really trying to do is figure out, okay, return on investment. What we've spent this money at, are we really getting the value of it? We can't really do that type of work in January, February, March. By that time, if you're saying, okay, just 5 people attached to this project, what are we going to do with these people? It's difficult. So we're trying to get things like that established a little sooner. It's just we're a big boat that doesn't move very fast. We're not a speedboat. We're definitely a little cruise liner that needs, we kind of turn a little slower than that. I've been trying for years. I was doing a trustee Westfall, went with me to Chicago once, and we have been involved in an organization that has tried to help us and others get through this. And I think they have some great ideas that we've been trying to work through. And it's just, we are implementing some things, but we do have some some roadblocks in Idaho where our legislators tend to tell us where to put the money as opposed to have a lot of discretion in other areas. So generally what happens, honestly, in the budget process is I take last year's and kind of roll it forward. And I said, okay, what type of things can we afford, not afford, and what type of things really, there's not a lot of crazy, readjustment. In the state of Idaho, theoretically, they do a zero-based budget, which comes in and they start from scratch every year and then reappoint every single year. And we've never done that, but that is, there's different places all around the nation that does different things, and we just got to look into those.
And I always think of it as, because this document doesn't tell the story. And I think about our continuous improvement plan. And so how does this fuel that with our state dollars? Certainly our levy really powers it because it pays for the curriculum that we buy and the devices. And so I always think, okay, this goes in that bucket. So we saw, we're maintaining teachers, and I don't have the talking points written out, but to me, those all kind of plugged in to our continuous improvement plan. So where do you get the stakeholder feedback? Do you get it there in shaping what are our hopes and dreams and our strategies? And we're gonna align our money to it, which, yeah. Sorry, no, yeah, excellent.
That is the ultimate goal. I mean, and our district has really been trying to be fully transparent in everything we do as well. So as much as we can get, stakeholder feedback on that, which includes, teachers and staff and all that, because we try to get that as well to make sure we're all on the same page.
It's a good and important conversation and it's attention, right? When so much is designated, this is how you're going to use this money. It feels difficult to figure out how to engage our patrons well with that.
Mr. Dewey, what is this? What was published in the newspaper? Is this the?
Yes, this is the actual publication that's required by the state of Idaho. And so this was we published, and there is a document that Chairman Simpson has on her desk that she will sign that has to be also turned in, that is more detailed. It is more of the function object level. That is 90 pages, the one, and the other one's 100 something. The only reason they're two different is because there's more funds in the new one because of all the ESSER funds added to it. And so that is required thing that we have to turn into the state as well as Department of Education.
And part of that goal to be more transparent and user-friendly, we had, I think, the first publication last year of a more friendly document.
We actually have that document done. We have, she's missing. We were in the stages of just looking at it to make sure that it actually, she's proofreading my information. Tammy Mullen and Kathleen worked on a bunch of it to get the other areas done. My goal is to have something similar to what Boise Meridian have, but in order to do that, there's a kind of a process with it's a budget award type thing, but it also goes through a lot of different areas. It goes through future projects and all that kind of stuff. But this is one stage of that we've been trying to get something together. We have that document done. It just wasn't 100% proofread, so we didn't want to turn it in until we actually had it proofread, and it'll be on the web. It's kind of a 5, I don't know how many pages ended up being, 10 pager of just, most of them are just pictures and some things of kind of, this is what's going on this year. We're trying to put it in layman's terms as much as we could.
Any other questions, comments? So we do have a motion. Oh, no. Not yet. We don't have a motion on the floor. So I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the 21-22 budget.
Second. Excellent. So it's moved by trustee Westfall, seconded by trustee Keller. I feel like we've discussed, but if there's anything else that anybody needs to say, please let me know. See none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Passes.
Next item on the agenda is the approval for our ESSER spending intent. And as you're aware, there are numerous federal grants and funds that came through COVID. We shared the PowerPoint with you, kind of broke down how those were expended. Here to take an action item or ask Mr. Dewey any further questions.
Dr. Russell, is this the funds you were saying you were expecting better guidance from the state on public?
Under ESSER 3. So ESSER 1, ESSER 2, some of the governor's learning loss, those have already been, as Mr. Dewey had said, dictated to us on, these are the requirements. There was about 15 requirements in those that we had to use, primarily was related towards COVID. It's really the ESSER 3 that came in March, which we got guidance from the state that mentioned there should be some parental input on that. And we're just trying to understand what does that really mean so that we can do the things that we need to make sure that this money flows through it. As you're aware that this has not came down and been allocated to us yet, it's just somewhere sitting. I'm not actually sure where it's sitting, but it's somewhere waiting to be spent. And as soon as we get under ESSER 1 and 2, we'll be able to have that. So we hopefully we'll get that guidance.
So, and I can add a little bit more as well on that. So ESSER 3, the learning loss is available right away. We have not got it in our GRA, which is our bank account yet. I don't think that's going to go in until the beginning of fiscal year, because that's when the legislature actually approved ESSER 3. The state also had to submit kind of a plan to the federal government as well. They have submitted that, and so even the state of Idaho's plan was kind of mixed into like a 70-30 or 70-30 split. So we got it right away. There are some additional requirements of transparency as well. And as soon as we get allocation of the funding, we have so many days of actually explaining our plan to the public and how we're going to get that. There are a lot more requirements on this this grant than there were in the other ones, for sure. But the one part about it, the really difficult thing with ESSER 3 though, is that it lasts for 3 years. And so the last thing I want to do, which I think others do, is really obligate everything right away, because we really don't know what we're going to need year 2 and year 3. We have a lot of it obligated, but there are things out there that we just are like, I wasn't ready for that. We really need to shift in this direction, because there's something curricular wise that this student group really needs, and this is a better tool for that. So we don't want to obligate everything right off the bat, but there are some things that we know that we need, and these are the areas that we've chosen to move some of those. But all of this doesn't spend all of that money yet. We still have quite a bit that we're working on to make sure that we're keeping up with some of the stuff.
So tonight, if there was a motion to approve the intent for ESSER 1 and ESSER 2, but maybe pause on ESSER 3 till we know our engagement requirements?
So I think the actual motion, which I'm not sure exactly what, I believe the actual motion is for ESSER 3, just to show us that you guys approve the direction that we're going. I don't think it actually approves like this is the line item that we do. That the difficulty with the line item, thou shalt do that, is you've seen with even ESSER 1, we had this great plan at the beginning of the year, and everything got all messed up again because we got another 4 million from here, we got another thing here, and then every day we got another 100,000 for nutrition services that we didn't know about that's coming in to help us with some losses there as well. We just need some assistance to have you guys understand where our direction is. We're not actually, as far as I know, we're not actually asking you to line item agree to what we're doing. There is going to be more information that needs to come down. I guarantee it, because there's just so much that we need to do. Some of this is actually have to be bid as well. If we do different projects, we'll have to come back to you on the very large projects expenses. Some of these are multi-year. So like in secondary instructional coaches, and some of those are multi-year. We have different things that we know we need to do with these. And so that's kind of where we're at right now.
The only thing I would add to is just our enrollment, which we don't know. So I think what we're attempting tonight is just to inform the board to say, here's the general direction, but understanding that expenses will change. Enrollment could come in, could come lower. That may require us to make some more shifts and adjustments. So I think this is more fluidity, just to understand, here's where we're thinking so far, here's where it follows the general guidelines, and here's where it follows the needs. But to what Mr. Dewey said, I think we'd have to have pretty consistent updates about currently where we are with these funds.
So one thing I will add here, and I'm just going to say it, this $2.7 million is all we've really planned in this budget year for ESSER 3 at the time. The issue as we start going through some of these multi-year contracts, or I don't know if we've allocated that in the right So I did 700 out of ESSER 3, but then another 2 million out of ESSER 3 learning loss. Whether or not we're 100% hitting those, what I don't know is the board's willingness to have us come back and do another small budget amendment and say, hey, we need a little bit more of ESSER 3. Is that what the intent is? We've already gotten the entire ESSER 2 in the budget right now. So it's really ESSER 3. How much do you guys really want to be involved in that approval? And do we need to bring back? And so if we're going to go over the 2.7 million, do you guys want to be involved in that? Or are you okay with approving we're okay with this direction. If it goes a little bit more, we'll do a budget amendment at the end of the year. We'll kind of fix it. Our policy states with special revenue funds, which all of these are, we don't necessarily have to do that, but the board has provided us guidance that you guys really want to be a little bit more involved in these if we're going to spend more. So I think that's where I'm at, is kind of where do you guys want to go, and then we'll adjust accordingly for you guys.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I like what I see with the intent. I like where we're headed. It's helpful to know that there's a lot more of the ESSER 3 monies that are going to be available that aren't planned for. I think it's helpful for those. I think the term that we originally used, those buckets, those big buckets, for those to be updated along the way. That's helpful to me. I think that's helpful to the board, and I would like to see that. But I'm happy that these talking points that Trustee Westfall pointed out last time, I made a note of them and I like those very much. 17 teachers and mental health provider and summer school and assessment tools, etc. So I'm comfortable with this and feel like we're headed in a good direction. I particularly like the tools that we're finding. I think Lexia is one of those tools. One's an assessment and one's a
reading curriculum.
Yeah.
Tier 2.
Yeah.
We're also doing some math things and some other things as well. We do have a working document that we've established that we've been working on it, of all the grants. It's multi-column and that kind of stuff. You could clean it up, and potentially if you wanted to, we could bring that back to you guys in a work session format each month. Say, hey, these are what we're doing now. This is kind of the most up to date. If you want, this is kind of, it's entirely up to you. Even if we wanted to put that same document up, this is the most current plan. Eventually, we're gonna have to get something out. Again, we don't know what that means to the public. We get public input, but we have to have a lot more transparency in how our plan is for this, and we have to put that out there a little bit more than the other ones. And so the state has not provided us any guidance because they don't know. It's just every day I think I'm going to get into a webinar that they are going to tell us something, and I think I've gone through 3 more of them and still not heard what we need.
The other thing that may change in this direction too is just our levy that we have coming up this coming year. And so as Mr. Dewey has said, years 2 and 3, you'll see some of those expenses are kind of earmarked out for that. But of course, our levy passing or not passing play a big part in what we can or cannot do with ESSER 2. So it's really hard to predict that far out. I'm just giving you general ideas of some of the expenses now.
Mr. Dewey, there was a question asked about staff daycare.
Yeah, so my understanding, the reason the staff daycare was necessary is because our students were not in school, so the staff needed help in order to have that. At this point in time, I don't see, you guys would know more than I, whether or not our students are going to be in school or not. So the budgets for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, none of the staff daycare. Now we do have some YMCA projects that are in our schools. We do have the Boys and Girls Club in our schools as well.
Yeah, we have not had any discussions with Boys and Girls Club about daycare before. That was a great support that they were able to provide for us next year. They're having hiring difficulties as well, but so we're not looking at that direction. We have had some before and after school programs that were part of the Boys and Girls Club, but those are grant funded through actually other funds that they've accessed from the federal government as well. So they're not tied with us in that sense, but they are providing some services for our students. So we're happy about that.
I'm comfortable with the intent. It sounds like we're going to have some more conversations about money that hasn't been earmarked, and we wanted to stay flexible.
And let me read, this is ESSER 3. So ESSER 2, we do have in the budget, and we have a pretty solid plan for ESSER 2. We know what we're going to use for that. And some things, we're very confident where we have this. ESSER 3 money is the big pot of money. ESSER 2 is about $11.9 million. This ESSER 3, as you can tell, is 27 million almost. So, and then we have another million or more coming from governor's learning loss money as well. We haven't got the full allocation of that as well, that we will need to spend before December 31st, as we discussed before as well.
Entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the intent of the ESSER spending for ESSER 3 as listed on this slide.
A second,
Yeah, I'll second that.
moved by trustee Kip, seconded by trustee Keller. Any thoughts? Seeing none.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you're all right.
I appreciate what you said and bringing it back to us. I do think it's helpful for transparency for us as well as the general public as these things get closer. And I don't want to nickel and dime you and make you feel like you have to count, but I do appreciate the buckets and seeing where general things are going. And so as we approve this intent, I would also think it's helpful just to see with this large chunk of money for the public to also see where it's going. So.
And we have to have a plan ourselves, so we have to submit something as well. So the whole thing is, it's not that we don't want anybody to know, it's not a secret. So reality is, it's just a matter of what kind of format do we have it. And the worry I have is we put something on there and everybody thinks, oh, that's where we're gonna go. Well, things can change. And we just need to know that it's a fluid document that, you know what, that's just not working, or this is more important. Now we need more SEL than we originally thought. So that's kind of what if we bring it back monthly, I think with the plan, this is what it is. It either it's changed or not changed. I think you guys will get a good, understanding of where we are truly with this money and what our plans are in the future.
I appreciate that.
And again, all those things are lined up with our CIP and our facilities efforts.
Would this be, I'm just thinking like when we get our revenue, right? And so is this gonna be something that's like in and paid out? Nampa School District's gonna have all of these ESSER 3 funds, 1, 2, and 3 funds paid to us before this next school year starts, or is that one of those things that are kind of up in the air? I just am thinking like, if we have 3 years to spend it, I'm wondering if there's gonna be like intervals paid out as well that might change what the process might look like. I don't know.
So the way our federal funds work, there are very few that are paid out in advance. So all of ours are sort of Title I, Title, our migrant and all that kind of stuff. It's as you spend, you get reimbursement for. So we actually have to, as soon as we spend the money, then we go and submit in a certain way. And this ESSER 3 actually even has more requirements because we have to do a lot more things. And we actually have to say, okay, out of the 20 things that's available, what does this one count? Or the other ones, we didn't even have to do that. ESSER 1, I would remind you, is done this year.
Right, yeah.
So ESSER 2 is going to be spent next year, and a portion of ESSER 3 will be spent next year. But as soon as we spend it, it has to be in the GRA, which is our bank account. And as soon as it's available, then we will submit it to them, and within a couple of weeks or so, then they send us the money. So we're not fronting a lot. We have plenty of cash reserves to be able to front this now. In the past, it wouldn't have been very hard, but we will be able to do this without too much difficulty.
And what the state does is then they look and see on that request, does it meet the federal guidelines of what the money can be used for? Because federal money has to be used by federal guidelines. So we don't have that freedom to spend as we would like, but it has to be within those bounds. And occasionally they'll kick it back and we have to explain a little bit more about how it fits within one of the categories.
Mr. Drew, the GRA is some kind of grant account, is that?
Yeah, so basically that's exactly right. I don't even know what the acronym means, but it's really our bank account at the state with federal grants. So we submit to a certain website, and at that point in time, they go through it, and if they like everything, they submit, and then we get a check in our bank account about a week or so later.
Good.
Yeah.
May I ask one clarifying question for my brain? It was explained to me previously that the ESSER 1 money, you couldn't spend the ESSER 3 money until the 2 money was spent and the 1 money spent. Is that correct? So will we be touching this at all before the ESSER 2 is?
So the way it works, so to be very technical, we do have to spend 100% of title at ESER 1, except any allocation that hasn't been spent by the private schools. So the private schools
Okay.
still have a little bit of time, but
Okay.
at first they were gonna tell us to spend every last dime, but then that wasn't within the rules. So they said, okay, other than your private schools, which our private schools have pretty much drowned down all of ESER 1. ESER 2 did not have a requirement to go to private schools.
Okay.
So we will have to use up all of ESER 1 before they'll even allow us to tap into ESER 2. That shouldn't be a problem. I'm planning on pulling down the remainder ESER 1 probably in July, once I know what our final balances are. The state hasn't even, the reports are messed up and I don't even know what our final revenue is gonna be yet. So as soon as I figure that out, we see what our expenses are, I'll pull down the ESER 1 and probably the middle of June and July. And then at that point, then ESER 2 will be opened up. ESER 3, the top part technically is not supposed to be available until ESER 2 is fully expended.
Okay.
But the learning loss portion is available now because we have that 20% that needs to be there. There are different things that are required that we need to start spending now in order to use it. And we'll try to spend that money first as much as possible. That's the most restrictive. And then at that point in time, we'll go from there.
Thank you. No other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. So on this next item, we discussed this, remember, in the work session. And so I will be appointing today, effective immediately, trustee Westfall and trustee Ross for our audit committee members. And right, that's just an appointment, like we don't have to vote is what my understanding. I just want to make sure. Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Dewey is up.
Uh-oh.
Budget status report. Any questions that you have towards that for him or?
There he is.
Randy, you're up.
I'm up again. I
Yeah.
apologize. I didn't know.
Budget report, monthly budget report.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot. Sorry. This is no big deal, right? Apologize. I was getting a card for her so she could give me a call.
Any questions for Mr. Dewey on the monthly budget status report? There you go.
Go ahead. All right, great.
Excellent. So we're moving on to our policy review.
Madam Chair, in the interest of time, could I make a motion to approve for second reading policies 1005, 1110, 1140, 1200, and policy 1405.
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Westfall and seconded by trustee Kipps.
We talked about all these and these just look like minor revisions.
Yeah. Excellent. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Okay, so those are approved for second reading.
Madam Chair, on the next item, motion
Yes.
for first reading to approve policy 1630 and policy 1640.
Aye. Second.
Excellent. Moved by trustee
More
Westfall and seconded by trustee Kip.
And voted.
And again, we've talked about these.
Yep. Excellent. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Thank you.
For legal update, I am not sure if we, Ms. Erickson was online, but she had to run to another meeting, so I'm not sure if she's still there. Do you see her at all? So it looks like we will not have a legal update this evening. And there are no comments from the superintendent.
Trustee comments at this point?
Do you anticipate any resolutions next month?
What, talk to me about what you,
ISBA's process.
thank you, yes. I haven't heard anything.
Okay. I was asked by another board to the west whether we were doing any, and so I said I'd ask.
Yeah, I haven't heard
So
anything
I'm too busy to do that.
about, resolutions from ISBA. I just want to remind you guys when we're in the meeting, only because I can be super distracted and it's probably the teacher in me, but I just want to remind folks that are here. I know like whispering, like it kind of detracts, at least for me and possibly for others. Plus we do have, Tammy has to keep our minutes and be keeping track of conversation. So if you guys, I didn't want to interrupt, but if you guys will just text maybe or write notes instead of whispering during the meeting so we can try to make sure everyone's hearing. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Board self-assessment. Trustee Westfall is finishing that up, I see right now.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I had a satisfactory. We didn't really have any contentious issues to build consensus around, but I think we came to an understanding about the ESSER funds and that. We had a little break from how we traditionally do public comment, but that was within the chair's discretion to do. So I had this as satisfactory.
And I'm happy to have you score me down. Because you're right, it's not our policy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. For our next upcoming meetings, just remember that board work session is on July 6th because of the holiday is observed on Monday, so it will be on Tuesday, that board work session. And then the regular meeting in July will be the 19th. And then I will entertain a motion.
Be resolved that the Board of Trustees for the Napa School District number 131 recess from a public meeting into executive session in the manner and for the purpose authorized by section 74-206 Idaho Code to discuss matters pertinent to this district. Specifically, subsection 1B to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student, and J, to consider labor contract matters authorized under section 74-206A, 1A, and B.
Moved by trustee Kipp, seconded by trustee Keller. You'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Westphal. Aye. Trustee Kipp.
Aye.
Trustee Keller.
Aye.
Chairman Simpson.
Aye. And I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the 21-22 master contract and authorize the administration to issue contracts.
Second.
Perfect. It was moved by trustee Westfall, seconded by trustee Kip. Any discussion?
Was this the same as ratifying? Was this?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
yeah.
making sure we have the right wording. Okay.
Perfect. I just want to say, as the person that you asked to be on the team, I just want to let folks know in our open session that things went really well and feel really good about the process. And of course, we would like more state funding, right? And adequate funding, but with what we have to work with, I feel like we're moving in a really good direction, and our negotiations team, I'm really proud of the work that all 12 members took place and did. And of course, our table of, Gwen and Randy and Tammy who provided support and help and answered all of our questions. So it was a really good process. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
Then we moved to interest-based starting, what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? So it's nice to
3, yeah. I'm like,
see
yes,
that maybe
yeah.
it's starting to go.
For the team, but I think they all kind of feel the same. So,
It's nice to be approving this now and not next March.
yes, I know HR and payroll will be really happy. We don't have to do contracts twice, which is awesome. No other questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. We have ratified the contract. Thank you.
No other.
Yeah. We are adjourned.
Oh, did Randy leave?